The signal that changed everything. A voice from the void. Before we begin, drop a quick comment below and let me know you're here. It helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like you. Now, let's dive in. Commander Sarah Chen stared at the screen in disbelief. The signal shouldn't exist. It came from a dead sector of space, a region so old that even the stars had burned out millions of years ago. Yet there it was, pulsing steadily on her monitor like a heartbeat from the grave. "Run it again," she said to her team aboard the research station Horizon's Edge. "There has to be a mistake." Her chief engineer, Marcus Webb, shook his head. "I've run it 17 times, Commander. It's real. And it's getting stronger." The signal wasn't random noise or natural radiation. It was structured, mathematical, deliberate. Someone or something was calling out across the darkness between galaxies. And after 300 years of searching, humanity had finally found proof they weren't alone. But Sarah felt no joy. Only dread. The gathering storm. Within 48 hours, every major power in human space had sent representatives to Horizon's Edge. The station, usually home to just 30 researchers, now hosted delegates from Earth, Mars, the Titan colonies, and the Belt Confederacy. Even the isolationist communities of the Outer Reach had sent observers. They gathered in the main conference room, a circular chamber with windows overlooking the endless dark. Sarah stood at the center, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes upon her. "The signal originates from beyond the observable universe as we know it," she explained, her voice steady despite her nerves. "It's traveling faster than light itself, which should be impossible. Whatever sent this has technology we can't even comprehend." Ambassador Liu from Earth leaned forward. "What does the message say?" Sarah hesitated. They'd been working on translation for 2 days straight, and what they'd found made no sense. Or rather, it made too much sense in a way that terrified her. "It's a warning," she said finally. "And an invitation. Words older than stars." The translation appeared on the massive display behind Sarah. The room fell silent as everyone read. "To the young species who dwell in light, your time of isolation ends. The harvest approaches. Those who wish to survive must prove their worth. Send your champion to the coordinates marked. Send your best. Send your human." The last word sent a chill through the room. The message specifically mentioned humans. Whatever sent this knew about them, had been watching them, studying them. "Yes," someone asked from the back. "We're not special. We've barely left our own solar system." Sarah pulled up another screen. "That's what we thought too. But our analysis suggests this message has been traveling for over 10 billion years. It was sent before our sun even existed. Before Earth formed. Whatever sent this predicted humanity would be here, now, at this exact moment in cosmic history." Marcus stepped forward, his face pale. "There's more. We found a second layer to the message, hidden in the mathematical structure. It's a countdown." "How long?" Ambassador Liu asked. 72 hours. Then something happens at those coordinates. Something they call the harvest. The choice no one wanted. The debate raged for hours. Some argued it was a trap. Others claimed it was humanity's chance to join a galactic community. The military representatives wanted to send warships. The scientists wanted to send probes. But Sarah knew the truth. The message was clear. It wanted a human. A single person to represent their entire species. And whatever test awaited them would determine the fate of everyone on Earth and beyond. "We need a volunteer," she said, cutting through the arguments. "Someone who embodies what humanity is. Someone who can speak for all of us." The room fell silent. Who could possibly represent billions of people? What skills would they need? Combatability? Intelligence? Diplomacy? No one knew what challenges awaited at those coordinates. Then a voice spoke from the doorway. "I'll go." Everyone turned. A young man stood there, no older than 25, wearing the simple gray uniform of a maintenance technician. His name badge read David Park. "And who are you?" Ambassador Liu asked, not unkindly. David stepped into the room, his hands trembling slightly but his voice firm. "Nobody special. I fix things on this station. Climate controls, waste recyclers, door mechanisms. Not exciting work." "Then why volunteer?" Sarah asked gently. David met her eyes. "Because that's what humans do, isn't it? We fix things. We solve problems. We don't give up when something's broken. Maybe that's what they want to see. Not our weapons or our genius, but our determination. Our refusal to quit." Sarah felt something shift in the room. This wasn't a soldier or a scientist or a diplomat. This was an ordinary person, the kind that made up most of humanity. Someone who worked hard, cared about others, and kept going even when things got difficult. "The coordinates are in deep space," Marcus warned. "It'll take 60 hours just to reach them, even at maximum speed. You'll arrive with only 12 hours before this harvest begins. No time to prepare, no backup, no way home if things go wrong." David nodded slowly. "I understand. But someone has to go. And if it's going to be anyone, it might as well be someone who knows how to fix things when they break." Journey into darkness. The ship they gave David was small, fast, and automated. It had enough supplies for 2 weeks, though no one believed the mission would last that long. Either David would succeed, or he wouldn't. Either humanity would survive, or it wouldn't. Sarah watched from the observation deck as the ship launched, its engines flaring bright against the black. She'd spent the last 12 hours with David, teaching him everything they knew about the signal, the message, the coordinates. But in truth, they knew almost nothing. "Do you think he has a chance?" Marcus asked beside her. Sarah didn't answer immediately. She thought about David's steady hands as he'd signed the mission documents. His calm acceptance of a task that should terrify anyone. His simple faith that humans were good at fixing things. "I think," she said finally, "that whoever sent that message has been watching us for a very long time. They know what we are. They know what we're capable of. And they specifically asked for a human." She turned to Marcus. "Maybe David is exactly what they're looking for." The ship vanished into the distance, a tiny spark of light swallowed by infinity. And across human space, billions of people waited, watched, and hoped that one ordinary man could save them all. The arrival. 60 hours later, David's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Before him stretched a sight no human had ever witnessed. The coordinates led to a structure that defied description, a massive ring of pure energy floating in the void, pulsing with colors that shouldn't exist. Inside the ring, space itself seemed to ripple and fold. David's hands gripped the controls. The countdown showed 11 hours and 47 minutes remaining. Whatever the harvest was, it would begin soon. Then a new message appeared on his screen, translated instantly by the ship's computer. "Welcome, human. The test begins. Prove your species deserves to continue. Prove you are more than flesh and fear. The harvest does not take the weak." David took a deep breath. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a genius. He was just a man who fixed broken things. But maybe, just maybe, that would be enough, the test of survival. Inside the ring. David guided his ship through the energy ring, and reality twisted. Space folded in ways his mind couldn't process. Colors that had no names flashed past his viewport. Time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously, making seconds feel like hours and hours like heartbeats. Then, suddenly, stillness. His ship floated in a vast chamber that shouldn't exist. The walls were made of something that looked like crystal but moved like liquid. Platforms of solid light stretched out in all directions, forming a maze that extended into dimensions David couldn't fully see. "Welcome, David Park of Earth." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It sounded old, impossibly old, like the echo of the universe's first words. A figure materialized before his ship. It was humanoid in shape but made entirely of shifting light patterns. Its face had no features, yet David felt it looking directly at him, seeing through him, reading his very soul. "I am the curator," the being said. "I have waited 10 billion years for this moment. For humanity to reach the stars. For you to arrive here." David found his voice. "What is the harvest?" The curator gestured, and the space around them filled with images. Stars being consumed by darkness. Planets crumbling to dust. Entire civilizations vanishing in the blink of an eye. "The harvest is what comes for all species," the curator explained. "It is the great filter, the final test. Every 1,000 years, the harvest sweeps through the galaxy, taking species that have grown too dangerous, too destructive, too broken to continue." The truth about humanity. David felt cold dread in his stomach. "And you're deciding if humans pass or fail?" "No," the curator said, and something in its voice softened. "I am here to give you a chance that others did not receive. My creators, long extinct, built this testing ground. They foresaw that someday, a species would emerge with a unique trait. The ability to adapt, to survive impossible odds, to fix what seems permanently broken." The curator moved closer. "Humans have that trait. You've survived ice ages, natural disasters, wars, plagues, extinction events. You've rebuilt civilizations after they collapsed. You've created beauty from ashes. You don't give up." David thought of his simple life, fixing air filters and door locks. "But I'm nobody special. Why choose me?" "Because you are exactly what humanity is," the curator replied. "Not soldiers or kings. Not geniuses or saints. But ordinary people who keep going. Who fix things when they break. Who help others even when it's hard." The being's light pulsed warmly. "That is why I believe you can pass the test. The impossible challenge." The curator waved its hand, and 3 platforms appeared, each holding a different object. "The test has 3 parts," it explained. "Each represents a fundamental aspect of survival. Complete all 3 before the countdown ends, and humanity will be spared from the harvest. Fail even one, and your species will be consumed." David's timer showed 9 hours remaining. He floated his ship to the first platform. On it sat a small device covered in alien symbols. It was broken, pieces scattered across the platform, clearly destroyed by time and neglect. "The first test, repair what is broken," the curator said. "This device once powered my creator's home world. It has been dormant for 1,000,000 years. Fix it without instructions, without tools designed for it, using only your human ingenuity." David stared at the shattered device. He had no idea how it worked, what power source it used, or even what half the pieces were for. But he thought about every broken machine he'd ever fixed, every problem he'd solved through trial and error, every time he'd succeeded through pure determination. He activated his ship's external manipulator arms and got to work. The first victory. Hours passed. David mapped out the pieces, looking for patterns. He noticed that some parts fit together like puzzle pieces, while others seemed to connect through magnetic fields he could barely detect. The device used principles of energy manipulation that human science hadn't discovered yet. But David didn't need to understand it completely. He just needed to see the patterns, follow the logic, trust his instincts. He connected power conduits, aligned crystal matrices, and carefully reassembled the core. When he attached the final piece, the device hummed to life, glowing with gentle blue light. The curator's voice held approval. "Well done. You saw past your limitations and found a solution. That is the human gift, the ability to solve problems you weren't designed to solve." David's timer showed 6 hours remaining. 2 tests left. The second trial. The second platform held something that made David's heart sink. It contained a transparent cube, and inside the cube was a small creature, something like a bird, but made of living light. It was dying, its glow fading with each passing moment. The second test, preserve what is precious, the curator said softly. This is the last of its kind, the final survivor of a species that once filled the skies of 100 worlds. It cannot survive in your universe's normal conditions. You must find a way to save it, though you have no knowledge of its biology, no medicine that works on beings of pure energy. David studied the dying creature. His engineering knowledge was useless here. This wasn't a machine he could repair. This was a life he had to preserve. Then he remembered something. Back on the station, he'd once saved a rare plant that everyone thought was dead. He hadn't used complicated science. He'd just changed its environment, given it the right conditions, and let nature do the rest. Maybe the creature didn't need medicine. Maybe it needed the right habitat. Preserving life. David analyzed the energy patterns around the creature. It was fading because the cube's power was running out. The creature was literally starving for energy. He maneuvered his ship closer and carefully opened a channel from his ship's fusion reactor to the cube. But direct power was too harsh, it would kill the fragile creature. So David built a filter using his ship's equipment. He channeled the power through multiple steps, refining it, softening it, until it matched the gentle frequency he detected from the creature's own glow. When the filtered energy reached the cube, the creature stirred. Its light grew stronger, brighter. It began to move again, dancing in the air like a tiny star. The curator's voice held something that sounded like joy. You understood. Life doesn't need complexity to be saved. It needs care, attention, the willingness to give of yourself so others can survive. This, too, is humanity's gift. 3 hours remained. 1 test left. The final test. The third platform was empty. No device to fix, no life to save. Just blank space. The final test, choose what matters, the curator said, and its voice grew heavy with sadness. I will be honest with you, David Park. I lied about one thing. The harvest is not coming. It came and went millions of years ago. It took my creators, every advanced species in this galaxy, everyone except me. David felt confusion and rising anger. Then why? Because I am alone, the curator said simply. For 1,000,000 years, I have watched species rise and fall. None passed these tests. None showed the combination of ingenuity, compassion, and determination that humanity possesses. I designed these trials to find a species worthy of receiving my creator's legacy, all their knowledge, all their technology, everything they learned in 1,000,000,000 years of existence. The curator's form brightened. You have passed the first 2 tests brilliantly. But the third test is the hardest. You must choose. 2 new objects appeared on the platform. One was a data core glowing with infinite knowledge, the sum of an ancient civilization's wisdom. The other was a simple communications device. Take the data core, the curator explained, and humanity will leap forward 10,000 years in a single moment. You'll have faster-than-light travel, unlimited energy, the power to reshape worlds. You'll become gods among the stars. David reached for it, but the curator wasn't finished. Or take the communicator and call home. Spend your last hour talking to the people you love. Tell them goodbye. Because once you take the knowledge, you can never return home. The human mind cannot hold such information and remain human. You will transform into something else, powerful, immortal, but no longer David Park. No longer fully human. The weight of choice. David's hand froze. He thought about Sarah and Marcus, waiting back on the station. He thought about his family on Earth, his friends, his simple life fixing broken things. He thought about all of humanity, waiting for him to save them. They expected him to return with solutions, with hope, with a way forward. The timer showed 43 minutes. Why make me choose? David asked, his voice breaking. This isn't fair. Fairness has nothing to do with it, the curator replied gently. This is the ultimate test of wisdom, knowing what truly matters. Power or connection? Progress or humanity? What you choose will define not just your fate, but the fate of your entire species. David looked at both objects. The data core promised everything humans had ever dreamed of. The communicator promised only a chance to say goodbye. But then David understood. This wasn't a test of what he wanted. It was a test of what humanity truly was. The human answer. David picked up the communicator. The curator's light flickered with surprise. You choose to remain human? It asked. To sacrifice godhood for a few final words? No, David said firmly. I choose both. He activated the communicator, contacting Horizon's edge. Sarah, Marcus, can you hear me? Their voices came through, filled with relief and fear. David. What's happening? Did you pass? How do we survive? David smiled. Listen carefully. I'm going to explain everything I learned here. The broken device taught me about energy manipulation. I can describe the principles. The dying creature showed me new forms of life support. Every test contained lessons I can share. He glanced at the data core. The curator offered me unlimited knowledge, but I realized something. Humanity doesn't need to leap forward 10,000 years in one moment. We need to grow, step by step, learning as we go. Making mistakes and fixing them. That's who we are. David spoke rapidly, describing everything he'd seen, every principle he'd discovered. The humans listening frantically recorded every word. I can't give you perfection, David said as his timer hit 15 minutes. But I can give you a path forward. You'll have to figure out the details yourselves. You'll have to work hard, make mistakes, start over sometimes. But that's okay. That's the human way. The curator's judgment. When David finished, silence filled the chamber. Then the curator began to laugh, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Magnificent, it said. You found the answer I never expected. You refused the binary choice. You took what you could, gave what you had, and trusted your people to do the rest. The being's light grew brilliant. You didn't save humanity by becoming something greater than human. You saved them by being perfectly, beautifully human. The curator moved closer. My creators would have loved you, David Park. They believed the universe needed species who valued connection over power, cooperation over domination, growth over instant gratification. You have proven that humanity is that species. The data core vanished. In its place appeared something else, a small crystal. I cannot give you my creator's full knowledge, the curator said. But I can give you this, a seed. Plant it in your solar system, and it will grow, slowly, over centuries. It will share knowledge at the pace humanity can absorb it, teaching you as you're ready to learn. You'll still make mistakes. You'll still struggle. But you'll grow into your destiny naturally, in your own time. Journey home. David took the crystal with trembling hands. And the harvest? Was any of that real? The harvest is real, the curator said quietly. But it doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. Species that grow too fast, gain too much power before they gain wisdom, they harvest themselves. They destroy their own worlds, their own people, their own future. Humanity could have done the same if you'd chosen instant godhood. The curator began to fade. My task is complete. I've waited 1 billion years to pass this legacy to worthy hands. Now I can rest. Wait. David called out. Will we see you again? The being's voice grew distant. Perhaps. In another 1 billion years, if humanity keeps growing, keeps choosing connection over power, keeps fixing what's broken instead of discarding it. Check the stars, David Park. We're always watching. Then the curator was gone, and David's ship was back in normal space, the crystal secure in his cargo hold. His communicator crackled. David. Your ship just appeared on our sensors. Are you okay? David looked at the crystal, then at the stars beyond his viewport. Somewhere out there, humanity's future was waiting, not handed to them on a silver platter, but earned through hard work, cooperation, and the simple determination to keep going even when things got difficult. "I'm fine," he said, smiling. "And I'm coming home. We have a lot of work to do." Epilogue: The Seed of Tomorrow. When David's ship docked at Horizon's edge, he was greeted as a hero. But he didn't feel like one. He felt like a maintenance technician who'd just finished a really complicated repair job. The crystal he brought back was placed in orbit around Earth, in a spot where all of humanity could see it. It would take 100 years before it began sharing its first lessons. 200 years after that, humans would develop their first faster-than-light drive, using principles the crystal taught them. 500 years later, humanity would meet its first alien species, survivors like the Curator, ancient beings who had passed their own tests long ago. And they would welcome humans not as conquerors or gods, but as equals. As fixers, helpers, survivors. David never saw those future days. He lived a quiet life, returned to his job fixing things on various stations, and eventually retired to a small farm on Mars. But every night, he would look up at the crystal in the sky and smile. Because he knew the truth that the Curator had taught him: humanity's strength wasn't in being the smartest, the strongest, or the fastest. It was in being stubbornly, impossibly, beautifully human. We don't give up. We fix what's broken. We help each other. We keep going. And that, more than any advanced technology or godlike power, is what will carry us to the stars.